Okay, I'm going to do this on my phone because I am too tired to get everything out that I need to do for my computer. So let's work through our notes real quick. Number one, you need to know the dates that these colonies were established. And the first one you have is Jamestown. Jamestown was established in 1607. Massachusetts Bay Colony is your second one, and that was 1629. Plymouth, 1620. Roanoke, 1587. So hopefully you had those written down. Let's very quickly go through what the following people did. Amerigo Vespucci is who America was named after. Remember, he was a map maker and the first one to list that there was a new world there. Christopher Columbus sailed in 1492. He technically discovered the new world. Ferdinand Magellan, remember his crew was the first one to sail completely around the world. He didn't make it, but his crew did. Francisco Pizarro, he is the one who went in and conquered the Incas. Hernando Cortez is the one who conquered the Aztecs. Okay, now listen, all these Johns, you need to make sure you don't just know their first name. John Cabot, John Cabot is the one who claimed Newfoundland or Newfound Land for England. John Rolfe is the guy who saved Plymouth by bringing in tobacco. He also married Pocahontas, but I think for the test, what you need to know is he saved Plymouth by bringing in tobacco that he learned to grow while he was, shipwrecked on an island. All right, we have John Smith. John Smith, you need to know, he was the guy in Jamestown who put into place a rule: you don't work, you don't eat. I need you, well, you're going to want to know where that Bible verse is found. I'm not going to tell you that, but you're going to want to know what Bible verse that is based on. You don't work, you don't eat. John White was the governor of Roanoke. John Winthrop was the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony. Leif Erikson was the Viking who landed technically in the New World first a long time ago. You're going to want to know where he's from. I'm not going to tell you, look it up. Massasoit, he was the Indian chief of the Native American chief who signed the peace treaty or smoked the peace pipe with the Pilgrims, whatever his name is, my brain just went blank. Okay, Miles Standish was the military leader of the Pilgrims. Pocahontas is the one who helped and aided the the people in Jamestown by bringing them food, and she helped the colony survive. Ponce de Leon, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I'm right. Ponce de Leon was the first Spanish to land on the mainland of North America. He was looking for the Fountain of Youth. Samuel de Champlain, he's established the first permanent French colony. So Ponce de Leon was the first Spanish. Samuel, which I think is spelled wrong on your thing I'm looking at now. It's okay. Champlain was the first French colony, settler. Squanto saved the Pilgrims by teaching them how to live off of the land. Vasco de Balboa is the guy who ultimately discovered the Pacific Ocean. They didn't realize there was a whole other ocean on the other side of that continent, which, anyway. William Bradford was the governor of, technically he was the second governor of Plymouth. The first one died in that first winter. And he is the guy who wrote History of Plymouth Plantation. Now, number C, you're going to need to be able to tell what the following were. So when you get to A and B, those are matching. On C, they're going to be short answers. So you're going to have to just pull that out of your head, okay? So short answer, you need to be able to tell me what the first history book was. And that was History of Plymouth Plantation. That was written by William Bradford. The first college was Harvard. And Harvard was put into place as a seminary to train ministers. The boat taken by the Pilgrims. So the Pilgrims took the Mayflower from England, from Plymouth, England to Plymouth, America. They had hired a second boat called the Speedwell. You're going to want to know that too. Number 4 says the common store system. Okay, the common store system was the system put in place in Jamestown where everybody worked and then put all of their, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever they gathered the day, whatever, all of the profits of their work into one large pot, and then it was distributed according to what the leader believed they should be able to have. And that's what was really their first downfall, because everybody quit working. That's when John Smith put into play the you don't work, you don't eat. Number 5 is the Northwest Passage. Remember, the Northwest Passage is what all of those English or early explorers were looking for. They believed that there had to have been a water route through that massive amount of land that we now call North America. We know there wasn't one, but there were many people looking for this supposed water route through the New World. The old Deluder-Satan Act was that act that was put into place that if a colony or a town had 50 or more 50 families, they had to hire a teacher. And if you had 100 families, you had to build a school and have a place for them to meet. And the premise was, if we don't educate our children, that old deluder Satan will take advantage of it. All right, the place Columbus landed was San Salvador. It means Holy Savior. You're going to want to know that. San Salvador, Holy Savior. The social classes in America. There are 4, technically they say there's 3 social classes. I always say there's 4 social classes, and I'll explain why. Number 1 was the aristocracy. They were the wealthy plantation owners, the guys who owned great pieces of land, the professionals, the wealthy merchants. So the first one was the aristocracy. The second was the middle class. Those were the workers, the small independent farmers, the shopkeepers, the skilled laborers. And then most textbooks put indentured servants and slaves on the same level, but I think that's two different levels. Because an indentured servant would serve their time and then gain their freedom. A slave was a slave. So I always say there are 4: aristocracy, middle class, indentured servants, and slaves. You're not going to have to define those. You just need to know what they are. Okay, the types of people that settled. Jamestown was settled by men, gentlemen. These gentlemen and men, there were very few workers. Most of them were gentlemen. That's why they almost starved, because a lot of them refused to work. Eventually, once more people began to come over, they realized they needed workers, but the people who tried to settle Jamestown were gentlemen. Plymouth, they sent families over, and these families were religious. Most of them were seeking religious freedom, and there were families coming over to start a new life. Massachusetts Bay Colony was settled by Puritan families, and again, they were seeking religious freedom, but on their own terms. Remember, they were the guys who were going to be the city on a hill, but then no one else was allowed in their colony. You need to know what the triangular trade routes were. Remember, we put the map up, and the triangular trade route was this route that was taken where they would pick up raw materials in one place, take it to Africa, pick up slaves, take it to the New World where they would pick up sugar and indigo and tobacco, and then take that back to England, trade it for raw materials, take that to Africa, get slaves. And it was this trade route that really enhanced and promoted and prompted and pushed and grew the slave trade. All right, you're going to have a map that you're also going to have to be able to label the 13 colonies. And I'm going to just sort of forewarn you to start thinking about, why is it important to study history? Is it important to study history? And what is your opinion on that reason? I love history, and I have an opinion on why it's important to study history, but I might want to know tomorrow, maybe, what you think about that. Why is it important to know our history? Is it even important to know? All right. Okay. I think that's everything on your review sheet, and there you go.